Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to actually stand here today because it's been like almost 5 months or so since standing like this in front of the camera as usual actually. Like the last time was I think where I turned myself into an agent. I'm back and I just have a few things I want to talk about. Not only today, but we will start today that still concern Korea. And now I'm in the kind of reflecting mode after the big trip. So I came back. I start to realize some things that maybe were not as present during my trip. They kind of developed and stuff, but it's now that I think of these things and I become a bit nostalgic. Also, just because it's fun, I think. Today, for those of you who also want to go to Korea or who just maybe are interested, things you should know before going to Korea. Some of them, not everyone tells you about that. Like if you go on YouTube, look for some videos like how to prepare for Korea. These are good guys, but some things I miss them. Some things were like, okay, I think knowing that before would have been a bit better, but it's okay, we're gonna go through that. And so confusing, like standing here with this hair color, being in Korea with this hair color normal, but standing in my room with this hair color, wow. Let's begin. I don't even know what would be point one because I have a list of several things. Let's just begin with the point that you should not expect too much and don't listen too much to what people tell you on the internet about Korea. Just put all your expectations aside about culture, about politeness. Be open to what you will receive, because this politeness thing, for example, I heard a lot about Korean people being extremely helpful and being like, oh, let me help you whenever they see you struggling on the street. That is an issue in the younger generation of Korea, because I was several times in a situation where I needed help, maybe, but young people would just pass you by and be like, I don't even notice. Whereas some elder people would eventually stop and help you. This is true, but don't expect all Koreans to be extremely nice, extremely polite, extremely this and that. So just one example of that you should not expect too much of their culture and the whole image of Korea and Korean people. The next thing would be your spendings. Make sure that you know what kind of person you are concerning spending money. If you're someone who is like, okay, I'm gonna buy only the very cheapest and necessary stuff, or if you wanna go shopping, if you're like, I'm not gonna restrict myself from anything, you have to know how much you want to spend, how much you want to bring with to Korea. It's really good to bring actually a Visa card, but you can of course go as well with cash and exchange it there. Depends on how long you stay also and what is more convenient for you. Make sure that you maybe have a little insight of what prices in Korea are, so you just know like if food in your country is more expensive or in Korea, or clothing, or maybe if you want to buy makeup there, that potentially it is more expensive in Korea. Like this was the case for me, like in Germany. Be a little bit aware of how much you probably will spend or want to spend or can spend. Make sure you have the right insurances in case you go to the hospital and you don't want to spend too much money and have an insurance. It's really good to have one. There were some cases where people did not have an insurance and they were in trouble when being sick or something. Consider as well that some products that are maybe common in your country may not be available in Korea, or you find them, they can be really expensive. I'm talking about food mainly because that's what I was focusing more when I was there. I was not too interested in shopping and stuff, and I had like all necessary stuff already with me. Just some foods, maybe expensive or just not available, or really hard to find. It took me ages to find oats, though they were there, but they sell them only in like big ass packages and like only one kind. As an example, are dairy products and meats are way more expensive than they are in Europe. If you want to not spend too much money on food, it's better to eat local, of course. Have to keep that in mind. Connecting to that point, I would also add the fact that because of this difference in food culture, it's not always easy to be vegan or vegetarian in Korea. We had several cases where people who were actually vegan just switched to vegetarian or just gave up for the time completely because they put broths or something in everything where you would expect, oh, the rest is actually vegetables or just grains. Why do they have to put like chicken broth in there? Oh, I don't know, like, so it's not that easy. They love to eat meat. I don't remember seeing soy yogurt or something in the store. Tofu tofu is hella cheap. You can find that everywhere, but if you're like a yogurt type or a milk type like me and you need your plant-based alternatives, it's not always easy to find them. Like, I have not seen them. To be honest, I was not really searching for that one, but I can imagine that it's not really common to eat like soy yogurt or something in Korea. Just keep in mind that not all products that you have in tons in your country are not always available in the same quantities in Korea. The next thing would be big cultural differences that may cause you issues if you disrespect them. If it's completely normal in your country to go with shoes that you wear on the street in the house, and you go to a Korean family being like, oh, let me just walk in there without putting off my shoes. Inform yourself about what is a complete no-go in Korea or what you should do instead, so you are not completely lost when something like that occurs and you're like, what did I do wrong? Just some stuff that may be uncomfortable if you do them. Also important, if you're someone who likes to be like double secure about something, have your stuff also on paper, so be prepared on paper as well. I'm not talking about the stuff like your flight ticket, passport, that's obvious, but I mean like, for example, an address, your hotel or wherever you stay or wherever you want to go, and you use the taxi, write that on a paper like in Korean and in English, because a Korean address is, for us Europeans, for us Germans at least, a complicated shit. When I first saw a Korean address, I was like, what the fuck is this? It has like multiple lines which are long because they write like big street, small street, number of the house, number of the flat, and if you can't read Korean or if you have struggles with Hangul, write that also in English, Roman letters. So do both, put that on paper, so it's also easier to show that to the taxi driver or something, that you don't have everything only on your phone and you're like double secure in case you lose one of them. Please install Kakao Map and or Naver Map. Install both, I think that's better. At first, I think I told that in one vlog, I worked only with Google Maps, even in Korea, because I thought that's better. Later I realized it's a lot better to use Kakao Map, Naver Map, because they even show you bus routes, schedules, prices, restaurants close by, and it's just better to use that ones because it's specially made for South Korea and it's really detailed then, and if you manage to find out how it works, you can do that. A thing that probably nobody tells you, because maybe it's not a thing that people will think about like in advance, but once you're there and something occurs, like an accident, how do I actually call the police, or how do I actually call the ambulance? How do I do that? I can blend you in some numbers and also link below, because there are many different ones. I just put that below so you don't have to search for it first and lose time, just in case something occurs, even though of course we don't want that, but being prepared is never wrong. You know what's also our little bonus when you go to Korea? When you know or learn in advance some basic words or phrases. Not only because English is an issue in Korea, that's what you have to know as well. Not everyone speaks English. Even some young people are struggling with that and you're like, I'm a tourist, what do I do? Maybe some basic things like 안녕하세요 or 감사합니다 or this or that. 어디 있어요? So if you go to a store and can't find something, a phrase, like you don't have to translate that all the time. If you try to find the way, it's way easier than people can just show you, even though maybe you don't understand what they say then, but at least they can show you and you don't spend too much time on explaining what your question actually is. Not too much, like I don't know everything myself either, but it really helped me that I knew how to ask for something, how much it costs, saves a lot of time as well. And I think it's also nice to know, because the currency system is different, the words for the numbers, so vocabulary in numbers, because it's also different. So even though of course you can see like on the screen, but if you ask in the market like how much is this one and they tell you something and you don't understand what it actually is, but don't worry, I was not secure with numbers myself when I went there, but now I'm a pro. Like it just happens automatically. You're just forced to learn numbers. Along with Naver and Kakao Map, you could study a little bit the public transportation system. It's a really good one, but just so you know that maybe buses and subways are not 24/7, so you're not like, oh, it's 11 p.m. I want to go home, but there is no bus available and I have to take a taxi. Taxis, you can find them everywhere. I think it's so much easier to find taxis in Korea. Every 2 minutes you will see a taxi pass by. But yeah, just about buses. How does it work with the T-money card? But it's easy to get that. And watch crazy drivers. stop before zebra crossings if you don't want to commit suicide. Medical checkups and vaccinations before you go to Korea. Make sure that all vaccinations needed for Korea or just in general, that you have them, that they are not expired, that they are refreshed if necessary, to keep you away from potential diseases that you didn't know about, that you could catch them. What you also want to be prepared for, especially if you stay in Korea for longer like I did, not just a week or two but longer, for several months, your body may change, your body may respond to the different environment and the food. Things are just different from your usual environment. I don't know if you can see it, but my skin is horrible. I came from Korea and I was like, what the fuck is happening with my skin? I mean, I started a little bit like before I actually went to Korea, just a tiny bit, but Korea made it so much worse because also like air pollution. If you plan to stay there for longer, it's maybe a good idea to buy a mask, especially if you stay in places where the air usually is not as good, like in Seoul or like closer to China, to like the west coast. Sometimes some days are bad in air pollution, and that also may affect your skin and everything. But also the food, especially if you're eating out a lot, like in the beginning I was, because it's so cheap and it's so delicious, you can gain weight. And actually everyone I knew, like from the girls, I don't know about guys, were all like, I gained 3 kilos or something. If you don't pay attention to that, it's really easy to gain weight, even though you don't eat too much. Like I was eating when I was hungry. I was not overeating or something, but I still gained some weight because the food is different, and if you're eating out they probably put even just more calories in the food. Just remember that. The last 2 things that I have for you are also really important. One of them is the question, why do I actually go to Korea? Do I go there for traveling? Do I want to see as many places as possible? Do I want to potentially live there and see how it actually is to live there? Do I want to visit someone? Do I want to just relax and settle my mind and just experience different cultures? Based on that, you can just plan your trips easier, or if you're like, I'm gonna travel, you can in advance look up which places are to visit in Korea and you can directly go there. Or also based on that, if you want to stay in a hotel, if you want to stay in a hostel, if you want to be in Airbnb, stuff like that. You can also go without a question, of course, and be like, I'm open to anything, but I think in the end you will have a really good effect when you ask you that question before. And the last thing would be when you're finally, you have everything, you have your visa, you have your ticket, everything is set. What do I pack? Look at the weather, depending on the season when you go, and it's also important to know in which season you go. Winter is hella cold, summer is hella hot. It's best to come whether in spring or in fall, just a little side note. But what do I bring? Make sure that you have the right clothing for the weather. Make sure that you put the medicine that you need maybe for the first time, if you're easily like travel sick or something. If you don't know if you find the right medicine for you, then just look at what you need. And if you're like, I'm gonna buy this and that there, I know it is available there, so I'm not gonna pack this one, fine. But take all the things that you think you need. For clothing, if you're like, I want to shop as well, but I don't have too much space in my luggage, take clothing that you maybe can throw away there. That's what I did. I left probably half of my clothes like there because I was like, last season I wear this, and after this created new space for the things I shopped in Korea. Yeah, that's what I can say for now. I hope you liked this video. I hope this was informative, and I hope you enjoyed watching it and liked it. If so, give me a thumbs up. It was really interesting to think of things that I would like to know in advance, or maybe I knew in advance, but not everyone is telling you this out there. And I hope now you are richer in your mind, in your brain. That's all I can say for now. I hope you have a good week. We'll see each other next time. Be always careful, be always prepared. Bye bye!